Okay, so I'm going to start by making potty training the easiest you've ever had it. I have done this with so many dogs, like I don't even know a number, and every time it has worked. There will maybe be one in every 500 cases that it doesn't work with, and that's because there's a medical issue going on, a urinary tract infection, kidney issues with or uric acid issues, gallbladder issues, intestinal issues. So we are diabetes. We always want to make sure that if a dog is not progressing when you're doing this method, that you make sure and go ahead and have the owner, or if you're the owner, take them to the vet and get checked out medically to make sure everything is okay. However, this works 99.9% of the time. So the first rule to potty training is have a crate that is safe enough that your dog cannot break out of it. And I recommend one that doesn't have anything in it, especially if they're a puppy or they're new to crate training. The only thing that I recommend putting in a crate is something, a hard bone that they can chew, that they're not going to choke on, that they can't swallow, get off and swallow little pieces of. And that's it. Just one. They don't need any stuffed animals. They don't need squeaky toys, chew toys. I call them baby toys because that's pretty much what they are. They don't need any of those, and I'll explain why. But you need to use a crate that is just big enough or smaller than your dog. Now, I do understand that there are owners who feel bad for putting their dogs in crates, but let me give you some positive effects of crate training. Number one, it's the easiest way to help with separation anxiety. So if your dog is suffering or your client's dog is suffering from any type of separation anxiety, this is going to help by doing proper crate training to let them know, hey, I can have some distance from you, be in the same room. You can hear us talk. You can watch us do our day. And they can just start to learn how to calm down in there. The other thing is, if they're doing things all the time, chewing on things all the time, and most people think, well, they have a chew need. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Dogs have a bite need and a chew need, and they need to get those instincts used in a proper way at the proper time. But if you are overusing those and overstimulating your dog with nonsense toys that they just don't need to have it all, you're creating a habit for your dog now that they're going to continue for the rest of their life. They're going to go, well, I always need something to chew on, or I always need something, to tear up, really is kind of what it comes down to. So that actually in and of itself creates anxiety for the dog as they become mature adults, because they're not comfortable just sitting and being who they are. Also, when you get into basic obedience training and advanced training, when you're really building into those 3Ds, the distance, duration, and distractions part of your training after you've taught the commands and you're going into working on these really hardcore and getting them solid, excellent commands. The thing that's interesting is if you have already taught them to rest in their crate when it's time to rest, instead of having all these toys and all the stimulation, they fall into that training so much faster. Like so much easier. So it's really important. And, a lot of people say, well, my dog destroys my couch. My dog destroys this. That's really your responsibility as an owner, or your client's responsibility, not to leave them out unattended. Like every time I hear that, I just like, okay, why did you leave your dog out when you weren't in the same room? You wouldn't leave a toddler in a room by themselves without supervision. We just don't do that. I mean, a 1 to 3 year old, you're not going to do that. And so why would you leave even a puppy who isn't even there yet mentally in a room by themselves, or even a dog that's 1 to 2, or if you're talking about certain breeds, they chew up to 4 and 5 years old. It's kind of that midpoint in their life where they start to turn and start to be able to relax if you've given them the tools and taught them how to relax. If you think about kids, of course, I'm going to use that as a reference code. So applicable in so many areas. Sleep training, calming techniques, having self-control. These are things we actually have to teach our children. They aren't just born doing these habits that we consider normal in everyday life. You have to teach them how to do that. And so it's the same with dogs. We have to give them the tools that they need to calm themselves. We have to give them the tools that they need to to be able to relax in a safe environment and feel okay just being and not having to do something all the time. That really does require a skill. So it is important that they are kenneled at all times when you're not watching them. It's just the number one way to prevent, like, I'll say this. I had a German Shepherd named Jax that ended up in a home that great owners, amazing owners, but they didn't crate him because he was perfect out of the crate. Like, he was so good out of the crate. I had fully trained him, and he was just a male adult in his life, going into the senior years of his life, which for a dog isn't he past 5. So 6 is, some consider 5, but most consider 6 to be the adult senior part of your life for a dog. So he was going into like his 4th or 5th year when I had allowed them to take him, and they left him out of the kennel when they weren't home, and he ingested some cloth of a fabric, and that killed him because they went into emergency surgery as soon as they were able to find him and get him to a vet, but it twisted his intestines and he died on the table during surgery, which, like, for me, obviously is super sad. I cried a lot because he was kind of my first male German Shepherd to really fall in love with. And if you haven't experienced a relationship with a male Shepherd, it's just unlike any other. They're just so emotional. And of course, all breeds are just amazing, really. But this is my preferred breed. I love, side note, personal note, I love Beagles, Huskies, Border Collies, Corgis, Aussies, all the herding breed dogs. And I really like Huskies. Yeah. So anyway, that was totally preventable if it would have just been a habit to keep them in the kennel. We have 2 dogs who are over the age of 5, turning 5 this year. One just turned 5 and another one turns 5 in August. They're perfect outside of the kennel, but you know what? We kennel them because it's for their own mental health. It's giving them a place of rest and a time to have a break from the kids, from the other dogs, from each other, and just giving them that alone time that they deserve and need. So it's really important that you kennel train your dog. I'm not going to leave them out because maybe the one time that I left them out and they didn't have a bone or something in the last week, maybe they'll want to use their chewing instinct. And I just would rather not take a step of idiocy or ignorance and leave them out of a kennel, because Jax was 7. He was on his way to 8 and he still did this. And he had been a great dog out of his kennel since he was 2. He was not when he was 1. He was a little terror, but then he, got some training and became really good. But I just don't recommend it for any age ever. So it's good for your dog to go ahead and learn that they can relax in their crate. Now, the reason it's important for you to have a crate that is just bigger than them is because they shouldn't have room to urinate or defecate in there and feel comfortable. We want them to know that, like, this is your living space and they're not comfortable naturally using the restroom in their living space. So if it's just barely to where they can turn around, or, obviously they need to be able to stand up, but lengthwise, you don't want them to be able to do anything more than turn around. So that's why that's really important. Rule number 2, we have the 3-hour, the 3-minute, and the 30-minute rule. So 3, 30, and 3. So 3 minutes, 30 minutes, and 3 hours. So I'm going to go over what each of those mean. So I'm going to kind of start backwards. Let them go potty every 3 hours. And if you have the manual with you, you can pull up these notes and follow along with me. For the first 4 months, really 3 to 4 months of your dog's life, they need to go potty. Or if you have a new dog that you've just brought in your home, a rescue, or one that's never been exposed to potty training, or it's just a new environment, they still need to go out every 3 hours. Remember, this is a commitment. Um, Quickly, your dog will understand your routine. I mean, usually within 3 to 4 days, your dog completely understands your routine. And you'll build that trust with them and say, this is what I routinely do. I always let you out. We always go out. So you can hold it, trusting, knowing that I'm going to come get you and let you go potty. Um, a couple of things to the 30-minute rule. Anytime you let your dog go potty and you're potty training, once potty training is complete and you have a safe fenced-in backyard, you don't have to do this anymore. But they always, always, always need to go out on a leash. And I'm not talking a retractable leash. If you have one, go burn it and put it in the trash can, or put it in the trash can. There's a whole nother thing about why trainers don't like retractable leashes, and that's a whole lesson in itself. Just Google why trainers don't like retractable leashes. It scares them, it chases them, they break all the time. Just don't do it. Causes you to not be as in tune with what your dog is doing. Just don't do it. It's dumb. Okay. So they need to eat in their crate because that's where that's like their safe place, and helping them eat in there makes them feel safe. So let them eat in their crate 30 minutes before they go potty, because it's really important that dogs don't run and do things that's active right after they eat in that moment, because it can be a big cause of bloat. Another thing that I want you to go look up that I'm not going to cover is bloat. You need to be able to understand the signs and symptoms of it. You need to be able to understand signs and symptoms of heartworm disease, where that's most prevalent at in our nation, Mid East and Central South. But what are the effects of this? What is this? We need to be able to teach our clients, or even be an informed handler or owner about these diseases that our dogs can get. Distemper, parvo, lepto, all these things you need to make yourself very familiar with. Rabies, obviously, and your state law, so that you can inform your clients. How often are rabies vaccines required? For the state of Texas, where I'm at, it's every year. In Tennessee, where I was at before, it's every 3 to 5 years. So it just depends on your state's requirements. But educate yourself on that so that you can be knowledgeable in teaching this to your client, or that you're in compliance yourself. Okay. So another thing about eating in their crate, they get 5 minutes to eat their food. And that's being really generous. I think 3 to 5 minutes is absolute max. You need to put their food in there, and if they refuse it after 5 minutes, pull it out and do not offer it to them again until their next meal, whether that's dinner or breakfast or lunch or whatever. Now, typically, you're going to be feeding your dog at least 3 times a day if they're under 6 months old. Vets don't recommend changing to anything less than 3 times a day until they reach that 6-month-old marker, because they just, their stomachs are so small, they can only handle so much, and they won't be getting enough nutrients if they're not getting fed 3 times a day. Otherwise, you need to feed your dogs twice a day, period, end of story. You don't do once a day. It's just not good for their metabolic health. I mean, think about it. Would you like to eat once a day? Do you think that would provide enough nutrients for your body? No. Okay. So after 5 minutes, you tell your clients this, or if you're watching this to train your own dogs, you think that this could be a little bit harsh, but it's really not. After a day or two, your dog will start to understand, this is when I need to eat. And this is really, really, really important if you have multiple dogs, so that there's no aggression. But you should be feeding them in their kennels anyway, so that's not even a question or an issue. I would just like to create this culture where some things are just eliminated. If you feed your dogs separately in their own crate or kennel, then aggression isn't going to be an issue with food, right? Because the food is going to be eaten, or you're going to take it away after 5 minutes. It's as simple as that. So make sure that you leave their food in there 5 minutes. And when you take it away, go ahead and give them 30 minutes to decompress, and go ahead and offer them the bathroom, whether they ate the food or not, just because you want to build this as part of their routine. So whenever you go out, you're going to take them out on a leash. They're going to be in one centralized location. So you're not going to walk around the yard. Reason being, a walk is considered a reward. So if you're walking your dogs around your yard to go potty, you're rewarding them before they've done what you've asked them to do. It's going to lead to different smells coming up, and they don't know how to respond to that because they're excited about the butterfly that is the first butterfly they've ever seen in the entire world in their entire life. This dandelion that's perfect and bright and shiny. So it's really important that you stay in one place. Let them walk around, let them, within the length of your normal leash for 3 minutes. This is where the other 3-minute rule comes in. If they have not pottied within 3 minutes, go ahead and put them back in their crate for 30 minutes and try again. So once you have taken them out on a leash and you've stood there for 3 minutes, I recommend taking your phone with you or your watch and setting a timer for 3 minutes. At the 3-minute mark, like I said, to recap, if they have not pottied, take them inside, crate them, and try again in 30 minutes. I promise you, they'll get it very quickly. They're super smart, intelligent animals. So then let's say you're outside, it's been 3 minutes, but they did potty. So now if you're in a safe environment, fenced in, no other dogs, that type of situation, you can go ahead and unleash them and let them run around for, a few minutes. And then if you want to bring them in, because they did potty, I only recommend this if they go number 1 and number 2. They can have roam in your house. Now, I would still leave the leash on so that you can pull them out of situations like eating your socks, eating your toes, biting, whatever it is that they're trying to tear up the carpet, whatever they're getting into. So you've always have that little leash on or a pop collar to be able to do that. And I'll show you these items later. Excuse me. So you can let them free for about 30 minutes, and then you need to go ahead and put them back in their kennel. 30 minutes is plenty of free time. They're going to be tired and ready to go ahead and lay back down in that kennel. And then in 3 hours, again, it will be time to potty, or whenever your meal time is, if that comes before 3 hours, go ahead and feed them, remove the food after 5 minutes, and then take them potty 30 minutes thereafter. Always remember that when you see them start to potty number 1 or number 2, go ahead and mark that behavior immediately when it happens, because now when you're marking this behavior, this will be something that they understand what you're waiting on to be able to release them to have a reward. And B, later on, if you live in an apartment or if you take them traveling with you, or if you're in a hurry and you need to go to work or take care of your baby that just woke up or whatever the situation may be, they can go on command because if they need to, that is, because you'll have already taught them what the command is. So as soon as they start to potty, potty good girl, potty good girl, potty good girl. And we're not saying this in a neutral tone, potty good girl, or potty good girl. We're saying this in a positive tone because dogs don't really understand the meaning of words at first until they recognize that and understand the concept. Then you can start really teaching the word. But what they recognize is your tone of voice. So if you're potty good girl, yes, potty good girl, or whatever your marker is, make sure you say it as many times as you can while they're doing it, because the repetition is what's really going to help their little brains understand, or big brains understand what you're asking them to do. So that on time, in moment reward, this means don't be texting, be in the moment with your dog. This is training and this is setting your dog up for success. So don't be focused on something else. Be focused on what your dog is doing right there, especially if you're at an apartment or if you have to take them out in the front where there's other dogs that could be a threat to them. Make sure you're just out there focusing on your baby. Okay, so we talked about free time. We talked about crating them again for 3 hours. Now, a good rule of thumb is if your dog is doing well with potty training, not having many accidents, unless, a crazy situation occurred and you, for some reason, couldn't let them out every 3 hours, which I don't recommend because they can revert very quickly. Also, I'll go over cleaning a potty mess in a moment. So if you're doing really well, let's say they're 4 months old and they've really got the potty training thing down, you can do the 4-hour rule. So every month that they can go about that long without having to go potty. Some dogs, by the time they're 6 months old, they can go 7 hours without pottying, but I really try to max that out at 6, which I let my dogs out every 3 to 4 hours anyway. It's just part of my everyday life now. And I feel like that's Excuse me. The best thing to do on their bladders and digestive systems anyway. Okay. So about drinking water. If you're not going to be home, they need access to water, period, end of story. But if I'm going to be home and or I have a dog sitter there or a significant other that's going to help or friend or whatever the situation may be, I always give them water right before they're going out to go potty. Or I leave their water outside and clean the bowl every 24 hours. That's another trainer tip. Make sure that you clean their bowl when it gets dirty or every 24 to 48 hours, because there are studies of incredible amounts of nasty germs that grow in their bowl and that can cause diseases and all kinds of nasty things. So make sure you're cleaning their bowl with hot water and soap and then putting it back out there. Okay, so if I'm home, I can notice when they need a drink. I notice that it's been a while, I can give them a little drink, but while they're potty training, it needs to be really controlled. So if you're home, I recommend just paying attention to them and giving them a drink every time they go out. As large a drink as they want, but then they can drink and potty right afterwards. And then listen to their cues too. If they cry, take them out. Now, I never recommend as a trainer using the doorbell that people like to do, or a little bell or ringer. The dogs quickly figure out how to manipulate that to go in and out, and it has nothing to do with pottying after that for them. So I definitely don't ever recommend using that, because every single person that every client that I've ever had that used one ends up coming to me saying, how do I fix it? And I say, get rid of it, you know? But if your dog wants to go to the bathroom, they will go to the door. They'll give you some type of cue once they understand and learn how to do that. Well, let's see here. Okay, cleaning supplies. The best thing to use, which I also sell if you want to buy it, is a bottle of vinegar that is distilled. I put a couple extra things in there too, but for the one that I sell, but vinegar is the only thing that is known to neutralize the pH balance of urine, which can take that smell away. So the reason that this is important, what I do is I pour down some baking powder, baking soda, and I don't dump it down because it's hard to get up if it's caked, but you just do like a thin to moderate layer of it where they urinated, and let that soak for about 30 minutes and then go back or you can even wait a couple of hours and then go back and vacuum it up. So you pour the moderate layer of baking soda down, then you spray it with vinegar. That's going to pull the urine up out of the carpet, and then you can just vacuum the baking soda right up and it's no problem. If you use a lot, it's not going to vacuum up well. So that's a freebie on that from a professional, experienced trainer and dog mom. So the reason that this is important is because if your dog smells urine, they're going to go back to where it was to go again. Dogs are creatures of habit. And if that smells familiar to them and it's already there, they just kind of assume that's where they should go. So it's really important that you get every trace of urine up that you can. And the only way that you can tell if you got it all up is to turn off your lights and use a black light, a UV ray black light in your home. And if there's spots that show up, that means that you need to go back over those areas to get the urine fully up out of that spot. So I do sell the baking soda, the vinegar mix, as well as the UV lights on my dog training channel or site, expertdogtraining.org/shop. Sorry, y'all. My throat is so dry. It's been an issue. And like I said, I'm a vocalist, so it's been super frustrating the past week. And I drink water like fish. So I know that this will help you. If you have any questions about this at all, go ahead and send me an email again. And for those of you that are taking this course, I just want to remind you that I do consultations with you on Zoom for any issues that you may be having, questions that you may have. and also to see your handling skills, or you can schedule a time to come work with me on an hourly basis for me to watch you handle dogs and really help you with your handling skills. So we can do that via Zoom, but it that's a good option. But if you can, it's preferred to come to me here in Texas and stay at a hotel or Airbnb or something nearby, and then just come work with me on a daily basis for a couple of days while you're here. And then we can go through every command, get your handling skills down. It's super fun. Or you can come for like an advanced training seminar or tricks or scent work or those agility beginnings, those types of things that you want to work on. But for the purpose of this course, I will allow you to sign up for extra consultation time with me one-on-one via Zoom, or if you're here locally in person is just fine as well. Other than that, you can work with me to schedule a time to come here and work on your handling skills as well. So remember, if you have any questions, to write those down and let me know that you do want to have a consultation after this. I would love to answer all of your questions. I want to make you successful. I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm giving you all of my tips. Now, if you're a trainer, it's really cool when you learn this stuff because I want you to be successful. I believe in you, and I just love this industry so much, and I love that people want to work with dogs. So I want to empower you and give you all the training tools necessary. These are the stuff that you need to know to run your business, and do a really great job and be a 5-star business. Now, I do want to throw in this video. It's kind of off topic, but if you get frustrated with your dog or with a client's dog, you just need to step away and take a break, especially puppies. Puppies can be draining. And so that's why I never recommend like board and trains with puppies, because their potty training, you can't guarantee that in a board and train, because they're going to go home. The houses smell different. You don't know if all the urine's cleaned up in the house. You don't know if there's, different things being left out, if they're going to continue to kennel train, they're going to continue to do the things that you educate them to do. So I never recommend saying that you can potty train in a board and train, because while yes, you're absolutely capable of doing that and getting it done in a week, the issue is, when they go home, is it going to be maintained? So you can't promise something that you don't know what's going to happen in the home environment, or the carpet and wood and backyard and everything's alike, or front yard or wherever they go. um, so let me know what questions you have, and I'll look forward to doing consultations with each one of you. Take care. Bye-bye.